Hello there. Welcome to the end of week 7. This week was a little reminiscent of weeks 2 and 3, where I was just feeling beat down, tired, sore. But on a whole, the push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, it worked out. The transition from push-ups on Wednesday to pull-ups on Thursday is a little bit irksome. I find I'm a little bit sore, can't do quite as much as I would with pull-ups on Monday, but I can't find a better way to split it up so that I'm only doing one exercise out of those 3 per day. So I'm just going to go ahead and live with the inadequacy of the plan, or the less than ideal nature of the plan. I'm not counting per se. I'm doing somewhere between 4 and 6 sets of each exercise, and then I go until the exercise becomes difficult, and then I count out 10 more repetitions. This is certainly not the best way to do it, although maybe it is, I'm not entirely sure. But I find that instead of counting out 20 or 30, or probably not 40, but say 40 push-ups in a set, sort of wears at my mind. And that by going until it's difficult and then doing the 10, it's easier for my mind to stay in the game, to adhere to the plan. And so I'm just going to stick with that plan for the next week. For rucking, the plan didn't quite go to plan this week. Typically, I break it up about half the mileage on Tuesday, half on Thursday. This week, I ended up getting about 8.5 miles on Tuesday, and thought, well, I started feeling terrible at mile 6. And I'm passing by the house. I'd probably just want to stop here. And then I heard a little voice in my head that said, well, you could do that if you're a wimp. And I thought, oh, well, the longest ruck in Army basic training is 12 miles, at least to my knowledge. So I thought, well, 12 miles is about what I do in a week, so let's go for 12. And then to prove that I could go further, make it 13 miles instead. And so that's what I did. Ended up making 13 miles on Tuesday. Overall, not too bad, though I did it in a zero drop shoe, which, if you don't know, there's zero drop talks about the sole of a shoe, how typically there's a drop where the heel is thicker than the forefoot, and the difference between those two numbers is your drop. So a lot of shoes that I run in have a 10 millimeter drop, but I'm switching to zero drop shoes on the advice of Kelly Starrett from the Supple Leopard that I talked about earlier in this series. And essentially the idea is that it's going to cause the muscles in your feet to become stronger, that they're not being supported by arch support or the drop, and that you'll have a more natural foot strike landing on the ball of your foot instead of the heel of your foot, which is better for your joints, and you're going to end up strengthening your foot. And so as I slowly integrated these zero drop shoes, I've noticed that I have had very sore arches, that the feet are just sort of locked up. It's like you've just done a whole bunch of push-ups or pull-ups or deadlifts and you're sore. You haven't used those muscles recently and you're sore there. And so I take that to mean it's working. I've certainly noticed that the 13 miles left my feet in better shape than the first time I did 5 miles in a zero drop shoe. So I'm definitely seeing progress there, but it's still enough to delay me. And I see this in the running. So Monday was feeling a little bit lethargic, only made it 3 miles. And then after the ruck on Tuesday, I went 1.5, 1.6 miles on Wednesday. And so it's just not feeling great. Just out for a little bit to loosen up. So this means that to meet my goal of those 22, 23 miles for this week, I needed to ramp up my mileage for the rest of the week. So Thursday, I had 6 miles or so. That was feeling pretty good. Friday, I brought out 10 miles split between 6 in the morning and 4 in the evening. Those were pretty good. And then today, a 4-mile run. Now, looking at my 4-mile run today, I had about a, 10 minute, 13 second per mile pace. If I compare this to last week's 4-mile run on Friday, where I was running 10 minute, 2 second mile pace, and these are both 4-mile runs, I see that I've actually experienced a pretty big decrease in performance. But I believe it's due to the increase in mileage, because if we think this week, the total mileage was 24.8. Last week was 23.3, and the week before was 14.2. So I've really jumped up in mileage, almost to double what it was 2 weeks ago. And so I think I'm still acclimating to that. A supporting point to this is that I've been tracking my lowest heart rate during sleep, and I've noticed that since I started training, my lowest heart rate during sleep went from mid-50s down into mid-40s over the first, say 4 weeks or so. And that if I look at the data, that lowest heart rate during sleep before my 10-minute, 2-second a mile pace run was 44. Last night, before this run today, it was 49. And it seems to be that the higher your heart rate is during sleep as compared to what it is on average, the more stressed your body is, and the more difficult it will be for me to perform. And so I think that, having looked, it was a 49 last night, a 47 the night before, and it's been elevated this week just with increased mileage, I believe. And so I'm not too discouraged by this decrease in speed. I think it'll come back. And looking at my Friday night run, I went ahead and broke past my heart rate cap. I've been training at 155 and below because I'm following a maximum aerobic function training protocol that I'll talk about at some point in the future. But essentially the idea is to train aerobically so that you become faster in an aerobic state, because your aerobic systems for producing ATP, adenosine triphosphate, are much more effective than your anaerobic systems. It's an orders of magnitude better and more efficient to run in an aerobic state. And since things like Army Boot Camp or Ranger School or RASP or whatever it is would be more of an endurance event where you have days upon days of training, I've decided that that is a more valuable system to train for the moment. But on Friday night, that last little maybe quarter mile, half mile, I went ahead and really got moving. And looking at the watch, for that specific portion, I was in the high 6-minute mile pace, low 7-minute mile pace, and it felt really good. Even as slow as 8-minute mile pace felt really good, a whole lot better than it does to be running at the 10 or 11-minute mile pace, but I'm just not there yet. So I'm looking forward to being able to bump up the speed as my aerobic fitness increases, that I can start running at those paces that really feel natural. Just, it is satisfying to run at that speed. And so there you go. The plan for next week: push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, the same as I've been doing. I'm undecided about the ruck. I'm thinking about another 12, 13-mile ruck on either Tuesday or Thursday. But part of me also wants to do a 6-mile ruck for time, make sure that I think that I'm about where I need to be to make that time. So I'd like to do that. And if I do that, then I can justify bringing down ruck training to increase my attention on other areas where I think I might have a rougher time. Say getting that 2-mile time, I think is going to be a lot more challenging for me to meet the goal than for the rucking. And so by taking training away from the ruck and just sort of maintaining it, I can have more recovery for other events where I'm going to struggle more. And then for running, I'm going to go for about the 25-mile mark this week. It's going to be dependent upon how I feel Sunday and Monday, but somewhere between, say, 20 and 25 miles next week, just dependent upon how I'm feeling. But I'd like to hit the upper bound of that, or who knows? If YouTube keeps sending me David Goggins videos, maybe it'll be 30 or 40 or 50. Who knows? Who knows? Although I think that's unlikely to get that high in a week. Anyway, that's the plan. I look forward to talking about it and how it went next week. So until next time, cheers.